From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Tony Gray. Social movements in Brazil are organizing their first national protest since Sunday's election against President-elect Jair Bolsonaro. Demonstrators began to gather at the end of the afternoon in Sao Paulo's main avenue. Hundreds of organizations have promised to step up their resistance to the rise of fascism in Brazil in spite of their defeat at the polls.
Why are you here today?
I am here today to fight against fascism in Brazil and all around the world.
As a woman, as a history student, and as a future teacher, I cannot accept in silence a president who spreads racism and sexism, who is in favor of more exploitation of workers. Okay, he was elected democratically, and I'm in favor of democracy. I accept that. But he needs to know that his government will be watched very closely by all the movements that he wants to destroy. He already made clear that he wants to do away with all activism, and we have made it very clear that this is not going to happen, that we will resist all his policies of hate and prejudice.
Our correspondent Brian Mayer brings us more.
I'm standing underneath the Masp Art Museum in downtown São Paulo on Paulista Avenue, where shortly the first organized protest against Sunday's election and against the rise of fascism in Brazil is scheduled to kick off. Now, the protest was organized by two broad-based people's fronts that were created after the 2016 coup. One of them is called the Povo Sem Medo, and the other is called Frente Brasil Popular. Both of them are made up of hundreds of different organizations, social movements like the Landless Workers Movement, the Urban Homeless Workers Movement, MST and MTST respectively, labor unions associated with the CUT Labor Union Federation, the CTB Labor Union Federation, and students' organizations, and all kinds of different groups from around the country. So this is a protest that's going to happen in various cities across the country, and tonight people are still just arriving. There isn't much of a police presence yet, although that's expected to increase later. Most people are still getting off of work, and the expectation is that this crowd continues to grow until about an hour from now, people close off Paulista Avenue and start marching down the street, chanting slogans against Bolsonaro, like "Not him, Ele now."
Footage has emerged of military police attacking a female student activist in the Brazilian city of Salvador shortly after Jair Bolsonaro was announced as president-elect. The woman was left partially conscious and bleeding from the head. The confrontation was filmed by the media production company Redfish, who say supporters of Bolsonaro provoked supporters of Fernando Haddad, but the police then went after supporters of the Workers' Party. And the newly elected president has announced that he invited the judge Sergio Moro to serve on the country's Supreme Court. Now, Moro was the judge responsible for prosecuting former President Luiz Ignacio Lula da Silva, leading to his imprisonment. The judge has not given an official answer as yet, but he has already expressed his willingness to accept the offer to local media outlets. And the European Union wants Brazil's president-elect Jair Bolsonaro to consolidate democracy and respect the decision of the Brazilian people. EU spokeswoman Natasha Bertude commented on Brazil when she was asked if she thought Bolsonaro posed a threat to democratic values, given his admiration for the former military dictatorship and his racism. She confirmed that senior officials are to sign a congratulatory letter to Bolsonaro, who won the runoff election with 55% of the vote.
Always easy interlocutor and diplomat who always...
The various migrant caravans traveling to the US-Mexico border continue to persevere despite their hardships. The group that crossed from Guatemala into Mexico on Monday is now close to reaching the town of Tapachula. And thousands of migrants from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador have decided to start the perilous journey fleeing poverty and violence, all while the United States threatens them with action. The government of the United States is to militarize its southern border to rebuff the caravan of migrants.
Deploying over 5,000 troops to the US-Mexico border is Donald Trump's answer to the migrant exodus that has fled Central America. They want to enter the US to claim asylum, but Trump's response has made experts feel uneasy and they fear the outcome.
Those forces are trained to kill. Are they really going there to kill immigrant workers who are coming to file an asylum claim? That's a violation not only of those people's rights, it's a violation of international law. And yet that's the dominant political narrative in America: fear, paranoia, hatred, racism, xenophobia.
With midterm elections being a week away, the Trump administration's actions against migrants send a clear sign to voters.
Yeah, the politics of fear and manipulation are dominant politics now in the United States. The Trump administration has told the American people, especially through the media, that these thousands, a few thousand workers coming from Central America seeking asylum, which is their legal right to have an asylum claim, that they are an invading horde that's coming to take over America.
But it's much worse, as the thousands of troops are just the start.
That is just the start of this operation. We'll continue to adjust the numbers and inform you of those, but please know that's in addition to the 2,092 that are already employed from our National Guard Operation Guardian support that's been so effective.
Protection of the nation from foreign terrorists.
Migrant policies have become increasingly hostile and intolerant under the current administration. Their so-called zero-tolerance policy has separated thousands of children from their parents between April and June of this year.
And President Trump has said that he is planning to sign an executive order to end birthright citizenship. In an interview with local media, Trump said the idea of people coming to the United States and having a baby to gain citizenship is ridiculous. If that executive order is made, babies born in the U.S. will no longer be automatically considered citizens. But Trump's plan has been refuted by the House Speaker Paul Ryan. According to the Washington Post, Ryan said it was not possible to end birthright citizenship with an executive order. Currently, most persons born in the U.S. are entitled to citizenship as laid out by the Constitution and the courts. Days before midterm elections in the United States, young Democrats in New York are reaching out to eligible voters, which includes a big number of the Latino community.
Catalina Cruz is one of the faces of a progressive movement inside the Democrat Party, running as a candidate for the 39th District of the State Assembly of Queens. New York, she's campaigning door-to-door to motivate Latinos to go out and vote.
This is my way of saying that I'm here, I'm from this community, I need to listen to their needs, so I can be a leader, and also to remind them that on November the 6th they have to vote.
According to Cruz, a lot of Latinos don't vote because they are disappointed in the system.
For a long time, the Democrats and Republicans have taken the issue of migration, our community and the Dreamers as a political matter that they negotiate as they please without thinking what they are doing or how they are affecting people's lives.
Community activists highlight that a lack of information contributes to the indifference of the Latino community in the electoral process.
Even though some have information on voting, others don't have any information at all and don't take the time to look for it. So we try to motivate them and to give them information so they don't have excuse to not vote.
They have to represent themselves and think about their kids. If parents don't set an example for their children, they are going to remain in the shadows, and that's not fair.
According to social organizations, low participation is the outcome of several factors. One of them, the schedule of voting centers, which is not always suitable with that of schools. Also, ballot boxes are often set up far away from subway and bus stops. According to the Pew Research Center, 20 million Latinos are eligible to vote. However, in the last elections, under 7 million went to vote. Electoral participation of Latino voters changes a lot depending on the state. Latinos who live in Arizona and California are expected to see an increase in terms of participation. Other states with a large presence of Latinos are Florida, Texas, and New York.
We'll take a short break now. More news in a minute. Welcome back. Panama is issuing new tourism cards to allow Cuban citizens with ties to private businesses to enter the country visa-free to buy goods during a month-long stay. This new measure shows growing commercial ties between the two countries. Cuba is looking out for more international investment and credit from friendly countries as aid from Venezuela has decreased due to sanctions imposed by the United States and the European Union. The island is also subject to a U.S. blockade.
This step that we've taken, I believe that will strengthen the economic opening that you're seeing in Cuba. And following the country's rules and respecting the country's regulations and all their systems, it will make visits to Panama easier. Because many Cubans are traveling. They travel to other countries, they return to their country, and they're setting up their own businesses. They're moving forward. And this facilitates this process.
Mexico's President-elect Andrés Manuel López Obrador has announced that he is going to cancel the international airport project because it's what the people want.
The staple project of the administration of the outgoing president, Enrique Peña Nieto, is no more. On December the 1st, all work on Mexico City's new international airport will come to a halt, and the same day, AMLO is set to take office.
Se creará un sistema aeroportuario.
We will create a new airport system made up of Mexico City's international airport, Toluca's international airport, and a new international airport that will be built where Santa Lucia Air Base currently stands. This will allow us to serve anywhere between 60 and 70 million passengers per year.
During a press conference, AMLO announced the news, which was the result of a referendum that asked people whether construction of the airport should go ahead or not.
Personal interests will no longer be served. Corruption is over. This decision shows we have not buckled to any pressure. We're establishing a clear division between economic power and political power.
He also mentioned that dropping the project will save the government about $10 billion and will preserve the Nabor Cadillo Lake.
This area needs to be made into an ecological park, an area that celebrates the environment and brings people together.
Meanwhile, the outgoing president said the Texcoco super project will go on until the last day of his mandate.
The incoming government will have to confront the payment of previous agreements and will have to deal with rising taxes for travelers.
There are 5 major business groups involved in this mega project, that is the airport, who all claim to have completed over 30% of the work. The incoming government say they will cover all non-refundable expenses of contractors.
Activists, academics, and politicians in Colombia are protesting against fracking in the Magdalena region. They say that while the nation needs to exploit its resources, they need to protect their natural water sources. The region's aquifers could be in great danger given the amount of water that is needed for fracking. At least 23 condos have been poisoned in Patagonia, according to an Argentinian environmental organization. The non-profit organization Argentinian Birds says a banned substance was used to poison Andean condors across the Patagonian provinces. In the last year alone, more than 90 birds have been poisoned throughout the country. Condors are a kind of vulture, the largest flying birds in the world, and their population is declining. Now, 1 week ago, the Calypso world was thrown into mourning with the death of Winston Bailey, the mighty Shadow. The Trinidadian musical legend was laid to rest on Tuesday with a funeral benefiting a Calypso king. at the Queen's Park Savannah, the traditional staging of the annual Dimanche Gras competition, which Shadow won in 2000, making him the Calypso King of that year. Shadow was conferred with a Doctorate of Letters from the UWI on Sunday, 4 days after his death. For his funeral, he requested that mourners wear white, in contrast with his traditional all-black garb as a performer.
Think about it. This is a man who has stayed relevant for 5 decades. 70 to 80 hits. 80 to 90 hits. 90 to 2000 hits. And if he was here today, we would have had some more hits. That's right. Because that is the kind of fella that Winston Bailey was now. And I mean, I use the word was because I'm referring that to physical and flesh. But that man can't dead. That man immortalized himself in all the minds, Jed. That up to today, anything different is a Shadow vibes. And any baseline that bounces a different way is a Shadow vibes. You understand? We just talk about soca, but soca is drum and bass. Who is drum and bass? Shadow vibes. You understand what I'm saying?
Shadow vibes in truth. We're going to take a short break now and have more news in a minute.
With developing events being presented through analysis, our coverage transcends borders. With renowned journalist Walter Martinez.
Salud amigos, tripulantes de nuestra querida, contaminada y única nave espacial.
Dossier. Weekdays. Only on Telesur.
Y ponga usted las cámaras, señor director.
Welcome back. Foreigners are increasing their investments in Greece as the government has launched a visa plan that grants them a residency permit.
Lian Wemnin is 29 years old. She was born in Beijing. She is planning to spend 250,000 euros in an apartment in Athens.
Here in Athens, with 250,000 euros, I can buy 2 or even 3 apartments. If I was in Beijing, I would only be able to spend the same amount of money in a 30 square meter single apartment. It's a big difference, isn't it?
Lian also wants access to a permanent residency, a visa given by the government to investors ready to spend 250,000 euros in real estate properties.
With the golden visa, I would be able to travel to more than 26 European countries. It's very convenient.
Lian is not the only one. There's a lot of foreign investors interested, real estate agents have confirmed.
Their main interest is to get the residence permit. After that, buyers get interest in investing even more, thanks to Greece's friendly environment.
Those buying properties don't use them for living purposes. They use platforms like Airbnb to rent it to tourists.
We see that every month the real estate market is improving more and more.
The increasing demand of real estate in Greece has provoked a price hike for properties that most locals can still not afford after 8 years of austerity.
Now in Greece, there are more opportunities to make business. The most important thing is that Greece is a beautiful country. It has beautiful beaches, and the weather is really good.
After almost a decade of crisis, Greece's economy is slowly recovering. Now the main challenge is that locals benefit from this, and not only the elites.
A top South African lawyer has been shot dead while dropping his child off at school. According to the police, Pete Mihalik was in his vehicle when he was shot in the head and fatally wounded. Paramedics arrived on the scene but were unable to save him. The police have said that one suspect has been arrested in connection with the murder and is being questioned by detectives. At least 5 opposition supporters in Guinea have been injured in clashes with the police outside the home of the country's main opposition leader. The police had gone to the home of Sialou Diallo to prevent him from joining an anti-government demonstration. The opposition has been protesting against what it calls a violation by the authorities of an agreement reached in August over the appointment of local government officials.
We need a government that respects the Constitution and the laws. Alpha Condé's government is a negation of the law and the Constitution of the Republic. Stop obeying Mr. Alpha Condé. He's no longer in the service of the people. He's in the service of a mob.
South Sudan's rebel leader and former Vice President Riek Machar will return to the capital Juba this week to take part in a peace ceremony. It will be the first time he sets foot in the city since he fled 2 years ago when an earlier peace deal collapsed. South Sudan's civil war began in 2013 when the country's president accused Machar of plotting a coup. The war has resulted in thousands of deaths, mass rapes, and the forced recruitment of child soldiers. And pirates have abducted 11 crew members from a container ship off the coast of Nigeria. According to media reports, the attackers boarded the MV Pomerania Sky bound for the Nigerian port of Own. 8 of the abductees are Polish, while the nationality of the others are not yet known. Kidnapping and piracy in Nigeria and the Gulf of Guinea are common. Now here's a look at some of the other stories making headlines around the world.
The United Nations Human Rights Agency has asked for international experts to be involved in an independent investigation into the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Spokeswoman Rabina Shamdasani insists experts should have access to evidence and witnesses. She called on the Saudis to reveal the whereabouts of Khashoggi's body so that a forensic examination and autopsy can be carried out. According to Shamdasani, it would be unethical for Saudi Arabia to investigate alone, given their complicity in the crime.
In order to carry out an effective investigation to determine exactly what happened, clearly he was murdered, but was there torture as well? Was there an attempt at enforced disappearance? All of this needs to be established. There needs to be an autopsy carried out on the body to be able to do a proper investigation, identify the full truth about what happened, as well as the perpetrators.
Bad weather in Italy has led to hundreds of brand new Maseratis being destroyed in a fire in the port city of Savona. Following a flood, salty seawater came into contact with the car batteries, causing them to explode and ignite a blaze. The exact cause of the damage is not yet known. Hundreds of thousands of Shia Muslims have gathered in Iraq's holy city of Karbala for the annual pilgrimage of Arba'in to mark the end of the mourning period for Imam Hussein, grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. In keeping with tradition, pilgrims beat their heads as a way of expressing grief. A roadside bomb killed 3 pilgrims.
We've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website, talisyourtv.net/English. And join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Talisyo English, I'm Sweeney Gray. Thank you for watching.